Good morning, good evening, knowledge seekers and executors. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the extension of the design patterns. So far, we talked about service communication pattern and database management patterns. And half of the database management patterns which I talked about, the first one is like database as service, which is like talking about more on one specific database for one service, and so that it has more specific to the schema, and it has more flexibility, and it is loose coupling. So that is what the advantage for the database as service. And the second one is called it's called about a shared database service, which is multiple services will be used one common database, so that the consistency will be common and it will be same, because of all the databases will be used in the same database, and predominantly it makes us very easy for especially in the distributed applications. And the third one is a saga pattern, which I talked about in the distributed applications. If in case if you have multiple transactions which has been involved, and each transaction was routing something and adding up and updating something, and in between one of the transaction has been failed, means so make it sure the saga pattern will roll back all the previous transactions, whatever the performed things, and compensating, those are all the compensating actions which can be performed by the saga pattern. And the fourth one is called event sourcing with CQRS. Basically it talks about command query responsibility segregation, which is event sourcing combined with the CQRS allows capturing events, the events as a source of truth, and while separating the models, and which is talking about read and write models. And write operations are stored, which is talking about events, the sequence of events, enabling auditing and rebuilding the system state. And the write operations, which is talking about view purpose, where we are optimizing the view of the data for the query purposes. So that is what the services which will be used as data management CQRS, event sourcing with CQRS. Events are a source of truth. And the fifth one is command query services, command and query services, which we talked about in the service communication pattern, command as a read and query as a write. So that is what it is. So same thing in the above pattern which we talked about events, here a little difference is where we have a separate operations which talked about queries, and the queries which will be mainly handling the read operations, and commands will be adding about the write operations. This decouples allow independent services as scaling and optimizing the data in each services based on the requirements. That is what the command query services in the data patterns pretty much same whatever we talked about, but a slight difference the top one is event sources, which is the source of truth will be used. Again the commands will be used as a read, and queries as commands as write, and which is talking about events, and queries as write viewing purpose, just optimizing the views. And the last one is aggregator, very important one, where the aggregator, so the name itself which is talking about aggregating of all the services into one service to make it sure we don't have multiple requests and responses from the client. So basically it will combine all the responses from each request, and one request which will be provided by the client, and you have multiple request and response between the aggregated services, and finally you will get one output to the client, to the customer, or whoever raised the request. Predominantly this will be helpful to the users to make it sure you go only one aggregated service, one service that will be doing a lot of operations in between, and you will get the final output. You have different challenges, because if you keep it multiple services, again there is a latency issues will be available occurring on that. So how do you leverage that aggregator pattern is how do you handle it, how do you make it in the time limit. So all those things you have to manage. But if you are going with the aggregator pattern, it will be really helpful to reduce multiple multiple calls from the client. So these are all the data management patterns. Predominantly it is talking about handling the data in the microservices, considering we have to consider consistency, scalability, requirements, and performance, and the last one is the data autonomy. So all these things which will be helpful and resilience between the services in the data management patterns. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I'll talk about the remaining videos, remaining design patterns in my upcoming videos.